Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the second week of Glou Leader Box Month. Um, we're doing something a little different today. We are doing Vermouth. I know for some of you, this is probably perhaps the first kind of foray into the world of Vermouth. This is the second time we feature Vermouth on 6 Foot Wine Club. But when I think of idea of Google Leader Box was like something you want to kind of drink without overthinking it. It's just something delicious that like you can just kind of chug without, getting too geeky about it. And to me, that summer drink is vermouth. I mean, I drink vermouth all throughout the year, but particularly in the summertime, this on the rocks, little orange slice, a little sparkling wine or sparkling water on top, like that is to me the drink to go to. Also, like, if you ever go to a shitty bar, or like if you go to a bar and you just don't know what to drink, like there's nothing that's appealing to you. I always feel like vermouth and soda is like that perfect intermittent drink that you can have between different rounds. Because almost every bar has vermouth, and then soda on the rocks. I mean, it's just refreshing. It's easy. Anyways, vermouth is one of my it's not even a guilty pleasure. It's really just like something I find incredibly delicious, and then there's a lot of depth and a lot of different styles, and depending on where it comes from. But it is something that I really truly love and enjoy. So I figured, why not? And this also came in a liter box, so why not throw it into a Google liter box? So here we are. So we'll get into what vermouth is. We'll get into how it's made, and how it's different from maybe the other wines or quote unquote dry still wines that we normally consume. But vermouth has a long history. I mean, it's something that's been around in human history for a long time. But yeah, we'll get into that. Anyways, just an announcement before we get into the wine. I just have one, which is it's the last call on Case Club. So I'm gonna close Case Club tomorrow at noon on all the Sicilian wines and the last four wines from Bosch. So if you want to participate, I say go and get on that right now so you don't forget. But I'm going to close that at noon tomorrow. A few of them are already sold out. They were kind of limited in quantity. And then a lot of you have already snatched them up. So I think two or three of them are already sold out. But if you are interested, go and check it out. There's some really fun ones in the dope gem section, kind of a rare kind of finds. So check it out. All right. Outside of that, let's get into the wine. All right. So, because you're just joining us now, we're tasting this guy. I mean, it doesn't get any more Spanish than this. I mean, this label, like this is like a super traditional Spanish looking label, very old school. It's all very intentional. Quiles is a very, very old school kind of traditional. It's the oldest winery in all of Alicante. So, they're traditionalists at heart, and so their label does not stray far from their kind of ethos. But anyways, we are tasting this guy, which is Primitivo Quiles Vermouth Rojo from Alicante, Spain, is what we are tasting today. All right, so let's start with the map, as we always do. There we go. Here's a map of Spain. Where we are is down here in Valencia. And in Valencia, where we are, is Alicante, which is this little jut up that kind of shoots up. So right along the Mediterranean coast, on the eastern coast of Spain, Barcelona is up here. So coming down from Barcelona, we get to Valencia, and then the Alicante is a tip up here. And then you see how there's like this kind of mountain range that kind of follows the coast that comes all the way down and goes all the way into Andalusia, coming down all the way into Sevilla and Jerez. So this mountain range is what gives a huge kind of a diverse style there. But also before we get, it's kind of the Levant section of Spain. But Spain has this kind of a vermouth tradition that most Americans have kind of completely missed, quite frankly. When we talk about vermouth in this country, quite a lot of times it's like this, like a, one, we think of it as an Italian thing, right? The martini ingredient, perhaps because the Louis Martini is perhaps the most distributed vermouth in US. That's probably plays a huge role, but it's something that goes into Negroni, something goes into Martini. But in Spain, vermouth, or they call it vermouth, B-R-N-U-T, vermouth in Spanish, is something else completely entirely. It's like almost like a cultural ritual, like just a way of just daily organizing, daily schedule and people, and nowhere in Spain is that really tradition more alive and evident than kind of particularly here in Valencia, but Alicante particularly, but all along the essentially eastern coast of Spain. If you go to Barcelona, you're going to find a lot of vermouth bars and vermouth being drunk. But as long as you follow this eastern coast, you're going to find vermouth being consumed in large quantities. But particularly here, Alicante, Valencia, and within Valencia, Alicante is really the kind of the epicenter of that vermouth culture. Alicante is not only the name of the city, but it is also the appellation name. As you can see, this kind of little purple area at the top. So the city itself, the Alicante, is like, if you've ever been there, it is super sunny. I mean, it is like the typical Mediterranean port town, sun-drenched, deep Roman history. They're also starting, because it's so close to the southern tip, like Andalusia, so there's a lot of Moorish influence that still comes up here. So you'll see a lot of architecture that has a lot of the Islam background, the Moorish background. But particularly as you go up on this hill, this mountain range that runs along the coast, closer you go up onto the hills, more of the Moorish influence of those castles that you can see on those hills. But there's pretty much what they call vermuteria, which is where they sell vermouth, as well as some of them make vermouth. It's in pretty much every corner on here in Alicante. And they're not only sold in bottles, but particularly in Alicante, it's very common for you to see them sold de grifo, which means it's from the tap. Essentially, they have a barrel of vermouth and they just tap it and just pour it straight from the barrel. That's how they serve. And it is delicious. And quite frankly, it all depends on what style of vermouth you like, but in my opinion, it's some of the best vermouths in the world. Along with, I also love like the northwestern part of Italy, the Piedmont area, the vermouth from that area as well. But this area of vermouth is delicious. The Alicante covers kind of two different regions. If you, I mean, for the purpose of this, talking about vermouth is not a huge big deal. But if we were talking about Alicante, it kind of divides into two different sections. So there's one that's more along the coast, much lower near the water. So it's a Costa Marina, hot, humid, very sea influence, famous for Muscatel. Muscat Alexandria is actually the main variety that grows here, which is the same variety that is Zebibo, which was in two of the wines that we tasted from Sicily last month, of the original Greek origin. It is also the same grape variety that the Muscat Alexandria that we had in the Pepino Blanco in the Chile month. So it makes sense, right? Spaniards who brought all those kind of grapes to the New World, to Chile, that Muscatel Alexandria would end up in places like Chile. So so a lot of Muscatel is grown here along the coast, but the interior, as you go up, so alto in Spanish meaning high, so as you go up on the hills, it becomes essentially a desert. It's a high altitude, really, really dry, really extreme continental weather. So it gets super, super hot in the summertime, and it is bitterly cold in the wintertime. So huge kind of extreme differences, very hot and humid on the coastal town. And as you go up, it gets super dry and desert-like. So very interesting in terms of what kind of styles of wines can come from here. The main grape for here as well in Alicante, as well as what we're going to talk about today, is really Monastrell and Muscatel. So Monastrell is the red grape, first and foremost. It grows everywhere in southeastern Spain, but particularly here in Alicante. But it's also called Mourvedre. or Mourvèdre. In France, it goes in, if you ever have Bandol Rouge, that's Mourvèdre. It goes all along the Languedoc coast in the southeastern or southwestern France. So that same grape variety, Mourvèdre in French, is called Mataro in Australia. There's a Mataro Mourvèdre in California as well. It's grown pretty widely throughout the world. Also Humia, which is down here, and then as well as a Priorat, where Phil's going soon. There's a lot of Mourvèdre or Monastrell that's growing there as well. The thing about Monastrell is that it is thick-skinned, it's heat-tolerant, drought-resistant. So it makes sense why it would grow well here, especially in the really dry, kind of a desert-like extreme environment. I mean, if you ever come here, there are vines that are just growing here in the middle of just like what looks like just like a desert plain that looks like they have survived just centuries of extreme condition because they have. And as a result of that, it produces this really deep, inky, like super phenolic, meaning super tannic. Oftentimes it has that kind of bitterness, the phenolic bitterness from the tanning being so high, but really earthy, peppery, leathery. It ages also for decades. A lot of that plum, prunes, like really dark fruit. So if you like some of that really deep, inky black red wine, that style, this area, Monastrell, is probably something that you would enjoy. One thing I would argue, one thing I would warn against is that because it's also so hot, the alcohol percentage here can get out of control if you let it or if you're not careful about it. So when you're looking for some Alicante red or this area of Valencia red, just make sure that the alcohol percentage, pay attention to the alcohol percentage because it could get up to like 15.5, even 16%. For the Vermouth Rojo, the base is, so this wine, the base is actually Muscatel. So it's the white grape, the Muscat de Alejandría. Like I mentioned, the Cebibo, same grape as Cebibo from last month, as well as what was it in Pepino Blanco in Chile box. But that's what gives this wine a little bit of that, there's a little bit of floral lift here. The perfume comes from Muscatel. And then Monastrell gives the kind of the depth, and the structure, body, and also the color. The special thing that this uses is they also use arope, which is a pretty traditional production method here in Alicante. Is they actually take the grape must, the unfermented, the just crushed juice or the pits and everything, the skins and everything. They actually cook it down and then they turn it into kind of a syrupy thing, and it's called arope. And then they use that and they add that back into the wine to kind of sweeten it a little bit, to give it more color. So there's some of that. So a lot of this, we're going to talk about it when we get tasting it, but there's definitely this like a deep, almost amberish color to this thing. A lot of that, it comes from the kind of raisin, the mahogany color that comes from the arope. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what the vermouth exactly is, because I know not everybody is familiar with what vermouth is. So let me see how I can stop sharing this. There we go. So vermouth, if you have to look up a definition of what a vermouth is, it is essentially an aromatized, fortified wine. So let's break that down. What does that mean? So aromatized meaning there are other ingredients in here, oftentimes what they call botanicals. And botanical can mean pretty much anything. It could be flowers, it could be vegetables, it could be herbs, it could be tree barks, roots, you name it. So anything you can add to lend flavor or aromas to a spirit or wine or anything, those are called botanicals, right? Like gin has a ton of botanical. The chief botanical that flavor gin being juniper berry, right? But you can have, like in case of Hendrick, there's cucumber, right? In case of something else, that Tanqueray, or the Sapphire, Tanqueray Sapphire, there's a lot of citrus in it, right? So all those things are botanical. So there's a ton of things that go into vermouth. Now, what does fortified mean? So when you're making wine, you essentially let the yeast go to work with the sugar, it converts it into alcohol, right? But at some point, if you wanted to, so all the sugar that's in here, there's a little bit of arrowbed that's added here, but that's really mostly for color, not really for the little bit of flavors as well. But the sugar that's in here is mostly natural sugar. It's all sugar that was left from the grapes, and they essentially stop the fermentation by dumping spirit into it, oftentimes unaged brandy. So they take higher alcohol brandy to jack up the alcohol percentage of the wine to a point where it kills off all the yeast cells. And then now all the sugar that's left over can't turn into alcohol because all the yeast is dead. So now you're left with this wine that has natural sugar that has not been converted into alcohol left over. And that's what fortification means, essentially dumping spirit into the wine to oftentimes just stop the fermentation. So what happens here is that they make the base wine, right? If in this case, it's Moscatel de Alessandria, Muscat. And then they have some of Monastrell as well. And then they put all kinds of botanicals in here. The actual recipe for this thing, so in case you didn't notice, in case you try to go look for a text sheet for this thing, it's not in our folder, not because I didn't load it up there, but because all these vermuteria, all the people who make vermouth are very, very secretive in terms of their recipes, what they exactly put in there. They'll tell you some general guidelines and we can kind of guess what it is by tasting it, but we don't know exactly. So there is no text sheet for this thing. So this is not confirmed, but so there's probably some sage, there's probably some ginger in here. There's definitely some sort of roots, kind of bittering agents. That's usually a common thing in vermouth. There's not only does the acid kind of balance out the sugar in the wine, but the bitterness also balances out the sugar. That's kind of the function of a lot of these cinchona roots or tree barks and things like that. In fact, the name vermouth comes from German word, German word Vermouth, which is the German word for wormwood. And in case you were wondering what that is, the wormwood was the chief flavoring agent that made absinthe what it was. So absinthe, in order to make absinthe, the wormwood was added to it. And then initially when the vermouth was made, they were adding wormwood to the wine to kind of give out the flavors of wormwood as well as to make it bitter, to balance out the sugar and all of that. And the Germans call it Vermouth for the wormwood that was added into the wine. And because a W is pronounced as a V in German, wormwood, wormwood, vermouth, that's how it became vermouth as we know it now. So the modern commercial vermouth began in Turin in 1786. By Antonio Benedetto Carpano. You guys know that name, Carpano is everywhere on the market. He was the first one to kind of commercially start selling vermouth. And then he was selling an aromatized wine out of a wine shop in the Piazza Castel. Within a generation, Italian vermouth was consumed across Europe. The French quickly developed their own kind of a drier, more austere version. We've had French vermouth from it's in Savoie, Chambéry, right? Delicious vermouth is made there. But it's much lighter, kind of a drier kind of version than an Italian version. And then Spanish went completely the other way. So Italian kind of started it, French took it, and it made it lighter, drier, and more austere. But then Spanish took it and they went the other way. They made it entirely more richer, more herbal, more flavor, more citrus forward, deeper in color, and oftentimes even sweeter. So it's a very different style of a vermouth. It's not necessarily one is better than the other, but just know that Spanish tends to be a lot more forward, much more herbal, sweeter. It could be also more bitter as well. Just more, so everything to kind of knobs turned up more. French being much more dialed down and Italian kind of being in the middle. So if you want to think about it that way. So let's talk about the La Hora del Vermouth. Phil, when you go to Barcelona, you're going to hear this word a lot, and you're going to see this in signs everywhere you walk around. So there's going to be a sign that says La Hora del Vermouth, meaning the Vermouth hour, which is essentially what Spanish means. I mean, it's a Spanish institution. It's essentially, I mean, in reality, it comes out to be essentially happy hour. So people get off work and then they go to this wine bars, vermouth bars, and then they get a glass of vermouth. It's oftentimes a sweet vermouth like this. They'll have all different kinds, and then put it on the rocks, put a little orange slice in it, give it to you, and you order little Hildas or different like pinchos and different bites and tapas and different things. Sometimes chips, some just olives, even simply. And then you just sit around, and then you just talk, hang out, for a couple hours. The Spanish don't eat dinner till like 10 p.m. So it's like that hour, the occupying hour between like 6 to like 9 p.m. is what you do. But initially, what I actually learned that when they were talking about taking it even more extreme, the La Hora de Vermouth falls around noon to 2 p.m. traditionally speaking, before the main meal. After the morning's work is done, you grab a glass of vermouth over ice with a slice of orange and an olive. You order a plate of anchovies, some chips, maybe a Hilda, which is that skewer with the olive, anchovy, and pepper on a toothpick, which is ubiquitous in Spain, one of my favorites. You talk, you take your time, you're not in a hurry, and then lunch is not until 3 p.m. So initially, the La Hora de Vermouth was kind of like a lunch hour drink, apparently, but these days, what I've seen is that it usually happens after work in the evening time. That tradition kind of went underground during the Franco dictatorship, so 1939 to 1975, when foreign influences, including the Italian origin vermouth culture, were suppressed. In the decades after, it faded. And then now the Hora de Vermouth is kind of experiencing this kind of a massive, joyful revival and resurgence back. And then you see it everywhere from Barcelona, Madrid, Alicante, anywhere in Valencia. There's old school bodegas that kind of what I'm saying, like de grifo out of the barrels and tap it straight. But there are also all these modern vermoutherias and vermouth bars that are opening up everywhere, selling kind of modern take on tapas and pinchos and all the things. It's really a fun thing to do when you go to Spain. I highly recommend you guys, whenever you go to Spain, make sure that you drink some vermouth and eat some tapas. Go check out some vermouth bars, like seek out vermouth bars, because it's really, really fun. All right, so let's talk about who makes this. Any questions, by the way, about the production method of vermouth, like how it's made, what that is? Cool. Here is. It was also really hard to find their pictures. It's the only picture I could find, really. So Bodegas Primitivo Quiles is the name of the winery. It's the oldest bodega winery in all of Alicante. So very, very traditional, very historic property. The Quiles family has been involved in wine in the Alicante region since 1780. First as a fruit grower and an exporter. And they didn't make wine. They were just kind of growing fruit and grapes. And then they formally started their own winery, started bottling their own stuff, starting in 1903. Today, it is run by their great-grandsons, Primitivo Quiles Roman, which is this gentleman on the right, and then Francisco Quiles, which is this gentleman on the left, and then the gentleman in the middle is their father, Don Primitivo Quiles Perez. So both of I've noticed that once during research, many of them had the same name. The Primitivo Quiles is their name, but in a Spanish Catholic tradition, the mother's maiden name gets attached after their name. So this is Primitivo Quiles Perez, and then his son is Primitivo Quiles Roman. So their name is both Primitivo Quiles, and his father's name was also Primitivo Quiles, but they're just there's another different name added to behind their name. But yeah, so these two were the fourth generation Quiles family, and then they're the one who is taking over and carrying on 245 years of family tradition. If you look, well, no, that's right. They have been making, so they make all the other wines, so they don't make just vermouth. They also make all the Monastrell that I was mentioning, Tivoli Conte. But vermouth has been made since 1920s using recipe described as the original secret family recipe. Again, nobody really knows. No one is being told. We couldn't find any tech sheet. We couldn't find anything. They just say that we're told that their family, the recipe has not been changed since 1920s. And knowing kind of what they do and who they are, I believe that. I mean, just look at their label. I mean, that kind of straight into their ethos. So what is this wine? It is a red vermouth Rojo made from base of muscatel, like I said, aromatized with wormwood, sage, fennel, ginger, cardamom, and clove, and then a little bit of that arope that I was saying, the kind of cooked grape must. There's a 15% ABV here in this wine, but only 3% of that comes from the natural fermentation. So you let it start fermenting, you get up to about 3%, and then that's when they dump the brandy into it to stop the fermentation. And then the rest of the 12% that comes from the grape spirit. There is this I was able to find on the internet. There, believe it or not, there's actually 150 grams per liter of residual sugar here in this wine. Like I mentioned, Spanish vermouth tends to be a little bit more, a little sweeter. But to me, this is super interesting. Like last week's wine had 30, the Cabernet Riesling had 38 grams, 35 grams per liter, right, of sugar. And this is 150 grams per liter of sugar. But this does not taste like there's 5 times as much sugar, or 4.5 times as much sugar as the last week's wine. So we'll talk more about that when we get to tasting it. This is a non-vintage, meaning it's not from a single year. They do take wines from across different vintages. The batch is kind of made to follow the kind of traditional consistent style they look for. So it's not, vermouth is not something that you drink to find the vintage variations between year to year, but it's more of to keep the family recipes consistent. And I think that's really it. I don't really have, again, any more technical data. So the base is muscatel. You added a little bit of monastrell, added all that botanicals, just add in there, let it start ferment, get us up to 3%. You dump the brand in there, stop the fermentation, get it up to 12%, and then add a little bit of arope to add the color as well as a little bit of sweetness. And that's pretty much what we have here. Cool. Any questions?
Yeah, so this white wine base?
It is a white wine base. It starts as a white wine, mostly white wine, and then the rest is added with the red wines added, as well as the arope is added. And also their wine making, as you saw in the picture, is pretty much all barrels and open top fermentation. It's a very oxidative winemaking. So whenever you make oxidative winemaking, or the white wine is exposed to oxygen, it turns brown. So for example, port, like all the port they all start out, or Madeira start out as white grapes. They're all white. They're made from white grapes, but they're brown. It's because they're completely oxidized. Any questions? Oh, and in case you were ever wondering, if you're not familiar with the vermouth, how to serve it, you can drink it exactly how it is now. Like I'm drinking without anything, just straight as neat. The most common one is to put it in on the rocks with ice, with a slice of orange, and then maybe they'll eat it, drink it with anchovies, chips, something salty, the sweet and salty kind of thing, right? But Manhattan, Negroni, these are kind of very, very typical cocktails, very common cocktail that features Manhattan, the vermouth, sweet vermouth, as well as I oftentimes drink it just neat as like if I haven't eaten too much, if it's either Fernet or vermouth that I eat or drink afterwards, just kind of new digestion. And in general, vermouth initially started out as kind of a medicine. It was a way to kind of help with the digestion, to kind of work up appetite, and also a way to kind of put all the medicinal properties of different botanicals and herbs and different things into wine so they can save it. was the whole point of it. But yeah, that's what we have here. Any questions? Cool. Well, let's taste it. I know this is a fortified wine. It's going to be a little bit different. And WCT actually has a separate, actually, let me see if I can find it. But WCT actually has a separate grid for, they have a whole different unit for fortified wines, different grid for your fortified wine. So let me see. I should have thought about that. Wine tasting grid. It's very similar, but it's just a little bit different. I don't know. It's not popping up, so let's just use this grid that we have. It's fine. For all intents and purposes, pretty much the same. All right, who wants to take the appearance?
I can.
All right.
Sorry, I put it on ice, so
That's all right.
but I believe it's clear.
Yeah, this one is clear.
Clear?
Call this pretty clear. Yeah.
Um,
Intensity.
intensity for, so do we compare this to like a red?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is more like light red, dark rosé-ish. Except the color is not red. You know, it's just a very different color, but like it's kind of what I'm seeing. So to me,
So like
it's about
medium.
yeah, exactly. Around the medium. It's not like super deep, but I'll call it about medium, intense. Colors of what would you call this color?
Like amber.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This is like amber, almost bordering on brown. But you know, there's also it can get even browner than this, even darker than this. But I would definitely call this amber for sure. Any other observations?
Those legs are pretty sexy, but no bubbles, no I don't see any deposits, but I also
Yeah.
like to shake it before I poured it. So
Yeah. Yep. I think there. Cool. Excellent. You get to pick the next person for the notes.
anybody want to do nose? Then I'll pick Joe because he's right under me in the thing.
Damn, I'll try. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, this is a very different kind of a thing. So
There's a reason I volunteered for the.
yeah, I mean, I got a whole bunch of ice in mine, so
yeah.
I'll call it clean.
Yeah, this one is clean for sure.
I call it like a medium nose. Like, you know, it takes a bit of a swish to get it, but it comes out the glass.
Yeah, mine is like
You know,
here, which is yeah, at least like 1 or 2 inches. So yeah, like medium, bordering on medium plus, somewhere around there. What do you get?
oh boy.
Honestly, you don't even have to go through all this. It's kind of because it's very different. It's not like you know this.
I mean, I would just jump right to like a cherry cola.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of like a cola, herbal, herbaceous kind of a thing.
While we were sitting here, I was like, I asked ChatGPT what are the rumored secret ingredients to Coca-Cola? Like, you know, thing. I kind of get a lot of that.
When I was looking for when I was researching this wine, a lot of tasting notes kept talking about cola nut. I don't know if that is actually has anything to do with the Coca-Cola or
Nut?
it's a cocoa family.
Okay.
But a lot of tasting notes say cola nut. I've never experienced
Cola nut.
Yeah,
no.
I don't know what cola nut is. But
I I
So
could see
yeah, there's
a little bit of licorice, cinnamon, and vanilla.
exactly.
Um,
I guess some anise, licorice. I think that's all excellent call.
yeah.
So we're talking a lot of like savory, herbaceous, herbal kind of a thing. Do you get any like floral, citrus, anything like that?
No. As far as herbal medicinal stuff, like there's something there. Like you mentioned before. Uh, there's one herb that kind of is kicking me right now. I'm trying to remember. It's one of the things you make like a soda from. An old timey soda.
Paragon?
No, not like sassafras or like
Yeah, like a root beer.
yeah, like
Yeah. I think that's a good call.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that cola root beer kind of thing, I think is what I'm there. And that's exactly that all that
Spearmint,
wormwood.
spearmint.
Spearmint, yeah. Okay, something minty, mentally, yeah, absolutely. Um, to me, I like there's definitely some like a floral and citrus note here. Like I get a lot of like orange peel, dried orange peels here. I guess some of the floral lift from Muscat, but like um a lot of where it goes is exactly what Joe's talking about. A lot of the kind of like herbaceous, herbal, savory, anise, dark like cardamom, clove, that era, kind of that area is where this goes. I think that cherry cola root beer, I think is a perfect call for this thing. So yeah, but to me, it's not. I've had vermouth that is like super just herbal and herbaceous. It almost reminds me of like a Chinese medicine shops that I used to go to when I was a child. But this is not that. Like this is not that herbal. There's still a lot of like fresh kind of citrus fruit and then kind of floral. Like there's a liveliness. Like there's lift in the aroma profile, which I really like.
Yeah, I think cherry cola and orange peel. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I mean, it's obviously we're not gonna do. We don't have to talk much about secondary, tertiary with a particular with the fortified wine. That's not what we really get into. But another thing I do mention here, and then I notice more on the palate than I do on the nose. But even on the nose, I get a little bit of it. I do get a little bit of that evidence of oxidative winemaking here. So there's a little bit of that kind of a nutty, like almond skin, like walnut skin, that kind of even on the nose. I get a little bit of it, but when we get to tasting, I'll talk about that. Cool. You get to pick the next person for the palate.
Okay. How about who picks me?
Cecilia did.
Oh, Cecilia picked me. Let's go down to Sarah.
Me, Sarah.
Sarah.
Yeah. Well, there's two of us.
There are two Sarahs?
I mean, maybe not on.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, mm, I don't know what to say about the sweetness of this one.
Sweet vermouth, it's sweet.
But is it sweet? I mean, it's not like that sweet.
Right? I mean, this says, I don't know if I really trust that number. It says 150 grams per liter of residual sugar. Like that is very high. I don't believe it's that high. There's definitely some sugar on here. Like to me, this is like just getting into that like medium dry, like coming off dry, medium dry. Is what I'm getting into. But like 150 grams is a lot. But I will say what I do appreciate about this sweetness here. Well, before we get to that, let's talk about acidity. What do you think this is?
I mean, I screwed this up last week when it was really sweet, and I was like, "Oh, it's not that acidic," and you were like, "What are you talking about?"
I don't think this one's that acidic.
I don't think it's that acidic.
Medium.
Yeah, it's not.
Medium.
So good. I'm glad you guys are catching this. So that's what I wanted to bring up. So Last week's wine was searing in acidity, right? And that's what was balancing the sugar. This week, in terms of sweetness, like perceptive sweetness, like the way I feel the sugar on this thing, is about the same as last week. That's why I'm going with the off dry, maybe getting into the medium dry, maybe slightly sweeter than last week's. But in terms of my perceptive experience of the sweet, is about the same as last week. That's why I don't believe that it's hard for me to believe that 150 grams per liter of residual sugar that I found online. But the balance, I would say the acidity of this thing is like medium at top, right? Even on the left, but what is balancing that sugar out on this thing is not only the medium acidity, but really there's quite a bit of bitterness here. It's kind of the Negroni factor. You know, when you drink Negroni, you have that bitterness from Campari as well as a vermouth, but mostly Campari, that balances out all the sugar. And to me, that's exactly what's happening here. It's like all that herbaceous, savory kind of bitterness from wormwood, and I'm sure there's like cinchona root here. There's different like root and tree barks in here that's bitter. That component is what's balancing out that sugar that's on this wine, even though acidity is medium. And that's why, to me, is what's really interesting about this, things like vermouth, because it does now, we're talking about, it doesn't have to be searing in acidity. Acidity doesn't have to be the only thing that balances the sugar. The bitterness can also. But yeah, I'm glad that you guys caught that the acidity on this thing is not that, because it's not. It's about medium. And in general, Mourvèdre, this area, just like, you know, it just is so hot here. It's hard to get wines that with really searing acidity because it just gets so hot and so big. Tannin, we don't have to really talk about it because this is all white wine based. It's not really about skin contact or any of that. Alcohol.
I mean, we already talked about it, and I already know.
Yeah.
I looked at the label. It doesn't taste. I mean, I guess you know that it's higher than like a regular.
Well, you watered it
So-
down, so that
Yeah,
makes
I
a
guess
big difference.
I have two glasses. I have one without the ice and one with ice.
Yeah. So, you know how say on the grid here, alcohol, there's a regular alcohol, and on the underneath is a fortified wines, and it's different low, medium, high. So they have they give different scales for fortified wines. So for dry regular wines, we talked about how 15%. Once you get to 15%, we're approaching higher alcohol, right? 15 and a half, 15 and above is essentially high in alcohol. And I feel it, right? It doesn't seem out of balance. It doesn't seem like, you know, it doesn't interfere, but because everything else is so robust. But if this was a dry wine, this would be high territory. But with a fortified wine at 15%, this is actually a low alcohol in fortified wine category. So fortified wine, we're talking about vermouth, we're talking about sherry, Madeira, port, all these things. And then it can range anywhere from like 15, 16%. This is very, very low for fortified, going all the way up to like 22, 23, like 25%. So when you're looking at the whole spectrum of fortified wines that are there, 15% is almost nothing. So in a fortified wine world, this would say low, but this is why I always tell people to get a practice of calling out the actual percentage. What do you think the percentage of this thing is? And to me, this is about like that 15%. Like whenever I drink wine that's like 15.5%, like feels hot, and that's about how hot this feels. But again, it doesn't feel out of contact, out of balance, because of everything else is just intensive and full. Okay, body.
It's a little definitely like medium plus, maybe.
Yeah, it's got some
Yeah.
viscosity, right?
Is there not a
Awesome.
different version for fortified wines? Because I almost feel like
Yeah, not for body. Surprising enough, and that's an excellent point. And even for dessert wines, right? You would think that they would have different category, because once the sugar goes in, it just gets become full and big. But in this case, no. So we call this a medium plus. I completely agree. even borderline full, because there's got some. I mean, with that much sugar in it, it's gonna get some body to it. Most we don't have to talk about, obviously. Flavor intensity.
I think pretty intense,
Yeah,
medium plus for sure.
yeah. I think this is medium plus, if not pronounced. I mean, there's
Yeah.
nothing shy about this. I mean, this is right, very, very full and big. Very, very expressive. Do you kind of agree with everything that Joe called out? Is there anything else that stuck out for you?
I didn't get the mint, but everything else, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought it was menthol. Oh, menthol.
yeah, menthol, mint. To me, like menthol, it kind of rolls into, it's in that kind of herbaceous family, herbaceous herbal. Anytime I'm talking about like, even like Coca-Cola or like root beer, there's some like mentally kind of a component to it. So, Joe called that spearmint. I call that menthol. But yeah, there's something in that kind of medicinal, herbaceous, herbal kind of thing going on. Anything else?
Yeah, I definitely get the like root beer kind of,
Yeah.
whatever that thing is that makes root beer.
There's sarsaparilla. I think
Sarsaparilla or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But yeah, no. What I like about this vermouth is that it's kind of hitting both notes. It's got the savory, herbaceous, herbal, sarsaparilla, cola, anise, ginger, cardamom, all these things. But also there's like pretty kind of like a floral notes, citrus, ton of citrus. Like there's a ton of like orange, dried orange peels and things like that here. And then even the nature of the fruit here is like some dry. I also get some like freshness here. It's not just like, it doesn't feel like a medicine. Some vermouth and some amaro can feel very, very like just medicinal and like cooked and dead. But the fruit quality, there's something like lively and then lifted about this thing, which I really appreciate. And as this wine stays open longer, I imagine this is going to develop more expressively. But even now, it isn't ever so faint, but it's there. It's hard to notice unless you're like really sitting there trying to pinpoint it or paying attention to it, because everything else is just so expressive and intense. But right at the back of the length, like there's a little bit of that oxidative thing coming in here. There's a little bit of that like nut, like a walnut skin. There's a little bit of like nuttiness.
Yeah.
It's not huge right now, but it's gonna develop more. But there's a little bit of that oxidative thing here, which I like. There's also like some raisiny, like raisin kind of component to this thing as well.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah, prunes and raisins and things like that. Cool. The finish. How long is the length?
Not that long. I
Huh?
like. I don't know. I mean,
Medium.
medium to medium,
Just medium.
medium. Like, given how pronounced it is and how like intense all the flavors are, it's kind of surprising it doesn't stick around. I don't know.
I don't have it sticking around that long compared to a lot of the wines we drink.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's still going for me. Yeah, I'm gonna call this like a lower end of medium plus. I'm gonna go into medium plus. I was gonna end up medium, but I still get some of that oxidative thing at the end, some of the cola lingering around. Yeah, I'm gonna go with like the low end of medium plus. All right, bring it home for us. How good is this wine? Would you age it?
Very good. I think.
How do we wine?
No?
Yeah.
I mean, tell me why. Do you think this wine is balanced?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely
Uh,
balance.
Intensity, we called it
Almost pronounced, right? Very medium
on the
plus to
palate,
almost
most
pronounced.
pronounced, on the nose, like medium plus, so like very intense, expressive. Yeah. And then complexity, we got a whole bunch of things, right? Like we got the flower, the citrus, we got all different characters of fruit, all the different kind of herbaceous, herbal, sarsaparilla, cola, prunes, menthol. I mean, all kinds of stuff going on. So a lot of different things going on here. I mean, if nothing, vermouth is always going to be the complexity of the vermouth is going to be a lot because there's a lot of things just added to there, right? And it's not just natural, but it's like added there. So definitely medium, borderline medium plus. I would say there's a lot of different things going on here. And then the length, you call it medium, I call it medium plus, but somewhere in between. So we're talking about balance, medium plus the pronounced intensity, medium to medium plus intensity, complexity, and then medium to medium plus length. And then when you take average all of that, I say we're ending somewhere between medium and medium plus. So I'll say it's very good.
Yeah.
So wine is very good. Would you age this?
I don't know how vermouth ages.
Yeah, no, you'd be correct. It's I mean, vermouth is just not really meant for aging. They you know, it's that one, even if you were thinking about it, right? Like the acidity is not super high. There's no tannin here, right? It's like there's not a huge backbone. A lot is kind of freshness, like especially with this vermouth. What's delicious about this wine is the vermouth is that there's a lot of freshness, a lot of kind of a the nature of the fruit and things that we talked about. Yes, we have all those herbal notes and savory notes, but there's also a lot of like fresh things that we talked about, like the flower and the citrus peels and things like that. A lot of those things are going to go away. So we're going to lose some of the deliciousness. So I would say drink this now. Don't even worry about aging it. You know, I've never had a like super old aged vermouth. Maybe like accidentally because some fucking bar just left it out forever, you know. But I've never had it intentionally aged vermouth. But yeah, vermouth is usually not something that that's meant for aging. So I say, don't even worry about it, just drink it. Cool. Good job, everyone. I know this is a difficult one, so way to power through. Way to pull out the things that you mentioned. Clove, cinnamon, ginger, yeah, all those things. It's excellent call. Cool.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, of course.
So we just have vermouth in our liquor cabinet, like just sitting there for as long as it takes us to drink it. But like this one we kept in the fridge and would like a bottle of wine that would go bad. Like theoretically the vermouth in our liquor cabinet would also go bad. Like what's the
But
should we be keeping it in the fridge and using
Yes.
it up more frequently? And like
I would.
but it's
Yeah,
not good.
vermouth definitely does go bad. I mean, just like regular wine, it will oxidize, so it will get nuttier. You will lose that freshness. And the way to kind of prolong that life cycle is to keep it in the fridge. And not only is it cooler, but it also is consistent. Like there's no change in temperature or fewer change in temperature, which is what helps with the longevity. So I tell all my bartenders, everybody, to keep vermouth in the fridge. Sweet, dry. Oh, and that's another thing I should say. There are different types of vermouths out there. There's a dry vermouth, which is the white vermouth made from white grapes that used in martinis, right? There's also rosé vermouth, and there's a sweet vermouth or red vermouth, which is what we're tasting today. But regardless of whether it's sugar, what type of vermouth it is, I would say keep it in the fridge. Same thing as wine, you know, whenever I say wine, if you're interested in keeping the longevity, like keeping it open or letting it last as long as you want. I mean, obviously there are different tricks, right? Like you can pull the air out of it, you can put it in mason jars and to minimize the air contact and all of it. But if you're gonna keep it in the bottle, always just keep it in the fridge. It will help with the have it last longer. But yes, with vermouth, I would definitely put it in the fridge for sure.
And then, m- how, like, how long can it last in the fridge?
In the fridge, I mean, so I like in my fridge, like vermouth never lasts more than like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know. We drink a lot of Negronis here, so like, and other
This
things.
might be why we don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, yeah. We just go through it, but I mean, I don't know. Like,
We keep dry vermouth for a while.
yeah, we keep dry vermouth, I guess, for a while, and
Yeah.
like,
Whoops.
I don't know. I guess it's just not as good, but it's not.
Exactly. I mean,
If it's not
just,
off, then like,
yeah, it's not off. None of it is. Even the wine, like you can drink it. It's not off. It's not bad for you. It's just not. It's expresses it before. Yeah, it's not going off. It's just that when you taste it, you're like, oh, it doesn't taste as fresh as it did when I first opened. But I've had like dry vermouth as long as like a month in my fridge, and it was totally fine. Like honestly, I made martinis after a month of it being open, because it's totally fine. I also drink dry vermouth on its own time to time. Like I actually like dry vermouth. I'm also one of those people who like martinis like extra wet, like third of martinis as vermouth, which is very different from what's fashionable, which is super dry martinis that are super popular. But yeah, I would say dry vermouth. Ideally, you want to use that up within like 2 weeks, but month, no problem.
okay.
I mean, this
Again, it's not going to go. It's not going to make
a
it
liter
sick.
bottle. We're supposed to use this in 2 weeks.
What, this? No. Like I said, like you can drink it over a month. If you keep it in the fridge, drink it over a month. Fine, totally fine. My bottle usually never lasts because like this is like a thing that I'm like, I don't know what to drink. I'm just like vermouth rocks. Done. It's just so easy.
I think I'm gonna have a Manhattan after this.
Perfect. The Manhattans.
Love a Manhattan.
Yeah, I love this, like exactly what Phil's having, like just vermouth on the rocks with golden slice as like after dinner drink. You know? Have dinner and then sit, have a little glass. Did you guys like this? Did anybody not like this? I think most of you were around when I first did the first vermouth, but some of you may not have been. Like, is this for how many of you is this like your first time actually drinking vermouth, like tasting vermouth on its own? I'm curious to those folks who this was your first time tasting vermouth, your thought, like what you thought it was going to be, and what you think about this now.
I think this is my first time tasting it as a tasting, and I think it was
Okay.
liked it.
Yeah, I definitely was like, ugh. And I do not like the Martini Rossi vermouth.
Yeah,
And so we have the Carpano one.
Carpano, yeah,
Carpano one with that I like better. But
Yeah.
I still like if I accidentally put too much in a cocktail, I'm like, nope, I don't like
Yeah.
it. And so I really liked this one today, actually.
right.
I was surprised.
Yeah, this is really good. I like this vermouth a lot. Anyone else? Phil? Natalie?
We
Yeah.
went to a place where we drank a lot of Amaro, and this really just reminds me.
Yeah,
It did
exactly.
a bar of Amaro and like some weird herbal stuff, and this it's good.
Amaro's weird herbal stuff,
Yeah.
but yes.
It's good.
Yeah, I mean it's exactly what it is. It's just made with wine instead of spirit. Yeah, it's the same concept, exact same concept,
I'm very surprised how drinkable it is.
right? It's delicious. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Phil?
I think it's delicious. I was
Yeah.
really surprised.
Yeah.
It was. I thought it was going to be sweeter, and
Yeah.
than it turned out to be. But
Yeah.
it's really kind of balanced that way with the
Right?
flavors.
Yeah. Wait until you go to Spain and then drink this with like little salty olives and bites and anchovies and things. Oh my God. It'll
Yeah.
change your life.
Well, we're going to the Black Vermouth vineyard.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I know we had a lot of converts with the first vermouth, so hopefully this is a continuation of all of that. Now you guys will all consume a little more vermouth because I really don't understand why this is not catching on. Like it's just such an easy thing, and, but yeah, I don't know why. Maybe it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like it's just so hard to sell wines with residual sugar in America. It's weird. There's this weird psychological block in the consumer's mind. It's like everybody says, "Oh, like I don't like sweet. I don't like sugar in my wine." Or I don't like sweet wines, but those are also the same people who also love cocktails. It's like if you're drinking cocktails, like why is this such a far-fetched, Like, yeah. But for some reason, there's just like a psychological mental block around sweet wines in America, which is weird.
I feel like it's if it is having any success, it's in the like low ABV cocktail space as a like, in the like aperitivo.
Yeah.
How this say like put soda water on this, or we didn't have any soda water, so we have some like blood orange spindrift, which actually works really well.
Yeah.
Aspect. I feel like there has been a lot of focus on like no alcohol or like NA cocktails, but I feel like a sister trend to that is like the low, like I want to drink something, but I don't want a ton of alcohol in it, and you can
Yep. Absolutely.
iced or
Vermouth and soda, like that's
yeah.
That was my low ABV cocktail before low ABV cocktail became the craze. So, cool. Let's play everyone's favorite game. How much do you think this wine is on a retail shelf? How much would you be happy paying for this? Delicious. Called it very good. It's a liter. How much do they give? 20, 25, 25, 25, 26, 34. All right. Well, the winner is Kirsten. I don't feel you also told me 26, but it's 25 bucks. This is 25 bucks in the retail store, which means this is 18.75 or 7.50. What is a pretty damn good price.
Yeah. I was telling Hadley, I was like, I'm like, I don't know if this is 20 bucks or 40 bucks. I'm like, I wouldn't be like, it's very well made, and like, the history, like, yeah, like, I'm glad it's on the lower end, because I will buy a lot of this on Case Club.
Yeah, by the oldest winery in our continent, like very traditional. They've been making this since the 1920s. They've been there since 1700s for 25 bucks. Very good. Yeah, I was shocked by not only how fresh this felt, but also, I mean, I guess maybe I shouldn't be so shocked. Like it's Spain first and foremost, but also Alicante. It's things are very cheap coming out of this. So yeah. Cool. Any
Was
questions?
the first one we had in Wine Club a few years ago, that was Spanish also, right?
No, it was
Is that
that was
Italian?
Italian actually.
It was Italian.
That was the Koki. Yeah, from Turin. Yeah, that's from Piedmont. Yep. So Koki was what we had the first time. Then this is the second one.
I forgot how much I love it. I'm glad to be reintroduced to it. It's also perfect for like when you don't want to open a bottle of wine. Like for me, it's just me, right? So I don't want to necessarily open a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
I just want a glass of something. It's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I
I'm
mean, it's just
definitely going to be buying it up for the summer.
perfect. That's what I'm saying. Like it's good for as an aperitif. It's also good as a digestive. It's like it's so versatile. Like you can use it for so many things, and it's like also so food friendly. Honestly, like it's just it's great. It's awesome.
I totally did the girl dinner manchego. Yeah, I mean, I love all those things to begin with, so you didn't have to tell me twice.
It's just an excuse to do.
It's just an excuse to eat. Yeah. Charcuterie and cheese for dinner.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, I had some of the I had some Spanish chorizo earlier. It's like, oh, this is so good together.
Yeah, I live, right by Trader Joe's. They have like the Spanish charcuterie pack, and manchego, and they also sell the frozen the tortilla española.
Yeah.
I was like, great, perfect, done.
Yep, exactly.
I'm
Well
still
done.
I'm still munching on Spanish olives with it. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Cool. Any other questions, comments? Awesome. Well, as I've always said, Americans should drink more vermouth, and hopefully now you guys will. All right.
Or more
Hearing that,
fortified wine in general.
more fortified wine in general.
I think
honestly.
it's underrated here.
Agreed. My favorite. So when you're going through WCT, the diploma course, it's all broken into different units. There's 6 different units, 8 different units, 6 different units, I think. And then like one spirit, one is sparkling wine, one is fortified wine, and then one is all dry wines. So like all dry wines is the one category. That's the biggest one. That's unit 4. And then there's a business of wine. There's actual like the farming side, viticulture is one unit. So anyways, but my favorite unit was always the sparkling and the fortified. I just love sparkling and fortified wines. It's my thing. Not that I did not love other ones, but I just love fortified wines and sparkling wines. Yeah, like once again, it's all about that sugar. I think that's the big hang up for Americans. But like once you start getting to port and Madeira, like there's so much good stuff out there. It's unbelievable. Sherry, oh my God. Like, yeah, sherry is a whole different animal. And it's also such good value, such good quality, amazing pound for pound, dollar for dollar quality you get with sherry. So yeah, drink more fortified wines for sure. For sure. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, I'm gonna stop the